this is why I wonder if life is actually a simulation, because if you gave me if I could paint and you gave me like a paintbrush and a canvas and you told me paint your ideal life, I would paint this exactly the way it is.
What's up everyone, welcome to the 0.1% show. My name is Simeon Invanov and I'm excited to be having a very special guest today. He is the co-founder of Soltara, one of the top plant medicine healing centers in the world. He's also the author of Pulse of the Jungle and has produced 2 amazing documentaries about plant medicine. For sure, he is one of the most knowledgeable people to talk about the topics of ayahuasca, which makes me very exciting to have him here with me today. Please welcome Daniel Cleland. Great to have you here, man.
Thank you, Simeon.
I watched a very interesting movie last night with my wife that reminded me quite a lot of my experience at Soltara doing ayahuasca. It's called Missing Links. And this guy who's leading the show, it's actually a series, he's talking and investigating the question, are we living in a simulated reality? And when I looked at it, actually, there's been, from what I've seen in the movie, there's been a lot of research also from scientists in Oxford University, and they're going very deep and making some even mathematical equations to try answering this question. I guess there is quite a big chance that this is actually happening. What do you think about it? Because my ayahuasca experience reminded me quite a lot of this question and what I saw in the movie.
I suppose I have some thoughts on that. First of all, I try not to make conclusions about things I have no idea of actually knowing about. You know, that includes religion, that includes the universe, that includes, this theory of simulation. And so, I mean, I would never say, yes, we're in a simulation or no, we're in a simulation, because it's impossible to really know unless perhaps they end up developing these mathematical equations that can prove it one way or the other. What I can say is that sometimes life is just too weird. You know, it's too strange to not be a simulation. Some of the things that happen, the way they happen, and sometimes you just get this kind of sense that like this can't be fucking real. You know what I mean? I don't know. So I could definitely see how life, from my own personal just experiences, strange experiences from time to time, I could see how life could be a simulation. And it seems like some pretty smart people are suggesting that it is. So yeah, your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah. But yeah, I totally agree on that. And I am also in the same boat, never making conclusions about anything, just trying to find the benefit from a theory to the life that I'm leading right now. And that was my experience with ayahuasca. It seemed to me that I've only done it once in Soltara a couple of months ago. It seemed that I was tapping into this outer reality, if you will, where you know everything and there is all the information that there is to know, and you can just ask questions and get answers. So it was really weird. It was really helpful as well. I mean, I guess it's only helpful if you do the work once you're back. Which was the amazing thing about Soltara, because from many of the things that I read and from many of the people that I've spoken with who have done ayahuasca, it seems that other centers do not really pay that much attention on integration. And your team was super professional. I was really, really surprised. I was not expecting such level of professionality. And they were really stressing out how important it is to focus on what you do when you're back, and that the healing is really opening up while you're there, but it's actually done once you're back. And it seems that so many people are missing that point, and it's the most important point of the healing process. And it seems that so many people say, at least they've been saying to me, oh, I need to go back and do it again, and then I need to do it again, and then I need to do it again. And I'm like, why? Like, what did you not get last time? Did you integrate the lessons that you got last time? And most of the time, many of the times, the answer is no, because they went to places where nobody even told them about the integration. Nobody gave them the tools to integrate. So where did you learn about that? Was that taught to you by the shamans? And how do you go about teaching the people that come to Soltara to really make this a successful experience for them, a very meaningful one? Because it always seems meaningful once you're there, but 1 year from the experience, very often the lessons fade away if you don't do the work the right way.
Sure. So I think it's certainly an evolution in the field of ayahuasca healing or plant medicine healing. I mean, there's really two ways you can look at it at the actual process itself. And one is experiential, right? So the ayahuasca experience in itself it can be very profound and meaningful experientially. And that's really kind of where the trend began, right? It began with everybody telling their stories about how incredible or how crazy or how, agonizing or whatever their ayahuasca experience was. And it was very much experience focused. So a few years ago, most of the retreat centers were focusing on just delivering the experience, right? And of course, that helped lots of people. But if you change the focus away from the experience and onto the effect, not the momentary effect, but the effect on a person's life, right? Because if the goal is to just have the experience, then integration is not important at all. But if the goal is to actually make some therapeutic life changes, then integration becomes very important, because the experience then just becomes an opening into the process of making those changes in life. So it's almost like opening a window and seeing where you should go, seeing like a glimpse of the direction that you may want to follow. And then the process of integration is actually taking those steps once you get back into your life. And that's when you often encounter a lot of the challenges and setbacks that, the different various cues that society and life and history and habit all put in front of us, and that have to be overcome in order to actually achieve some of those changes that you may have gotten the desire to achieve during the actual ayahuasca experience.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And
so we started placing all this importance on integration because, we've had plenty of experience in this field of work, but as you may know, I had a retreat center in Peru before we built Soltara. So I've been working in this field for about 10 years or so. But when we were starting Soltara, we used a bit of a different methodology of building out our processes and our programs and our structures and our ethos and our objectives. And instead of starting with us and asking what we wanted to do or what we thought was best, what we did was we started out by asking some of the more seasoned researchers and professionals in the field about what the field was lacking and where we should take our work. So, we've got a highly experienced and accredited advisory board that includes Gabor Mate, Dennis McKenna, Bia Labate, and a few other psychologists, licensed psychologists, being Dr. Clancy Kavnar and Sharon Rafferty, Dr. Sharon Rafferty. So they're all doctors, the whole advisory board. So while talking to our advisors as we were developing our model, right, that became kind of a front and center issue that just wasn't being properly addressed in the field of plant medicine healing. So we decided to focus on building out an original integration program, utilizing therapeutic techniques and strategies that our advisors, our licensed psychologist advisors, might use in their own practices, and they've also got experience integrating plant medicine therapies, plant medicine work with their own clients. So we're able to build out a proprietary integration program and actually produce a workbook that goes along with that as well. So our integration specialist, Kendra Birdsall, produced this in collaboration with Melissa Stangl, my co-founder, and Sylvia Campbell, who used to work as a facilitator. She's now our digital marketing manager, and Tyler Bagg, who's assistant facilitator and media guy, media manager, working with us, as well as the two psychologists, Dr. Rafferty and Dr. Kavnar. So with all of this kind of input, we built out this workbook called the Hero's Journal, and it seems to be a real effective tool that people have been using. And I think with the proper degree of focus on integration and for people who put in the work, both at the center, right, really kind of putting the work into preparing themselves for the integration program, but then also getting home and actually following through with all that. I think statistically the success rate is a lot higher in maintaining some of the gains and the wins that happen during the actual retreat experience. And that might, the goal has always been for us to not require second visits. It's like, we want you to come down once and then get what you need and continue on in life. Now, of course, the process is a lifelong process, right? And you're not going to get from point A to point Z in one go. Like, there's oftentimes anyways, right? Like for significant life changes, it's often a process that takes a few years. So we do still find people coming back, right? But ideally with a lot more progress than may have been achieved without having put this focus and work into integration.
Felt the same way, and actually that's been my journey even before thinking about doing ayahuasca, even before doing ayahuasca, is just doing the work for whatever I set my mind to achieve. If you don't do the daily work, if you don't set the daily habits, you cannot expect a lasting change. And as you said, it's a lifelong process, and you don't get perfect in a day. You never get perfect. I mean, there's always room for improvement. And especially for the kind of lessons that you get in ayahuasca, they're very deep and very usually the hardest struggles that you have in life. So you cannot really expect to be healed in a second, or the way you do it with a couple of ceremonies as well, 4 ceremonies during a week. I think it really gives you the opportunity to dive deep and to also have this 1 week of time to really sit and think without all this technology and the craziness of the world that we're living in, the Western world. I love the program. You guys have really put in a lot of thought and work, and the team that you've gathered is incredible. Everybody that I met there was just very professional, and I came with high expectations because my brother was there a couple of months before that, but honestly, it really exceeded what I expected. So thanks for what you've created, man.
It's you're welcome. I mean, but yeah, it's really a real team effort that's brought it together. There's just been so much heart and soul and effort that has been invested by our whole team. Everyone, right from the housekeepers to to our ceremony staff, to the kitchen staff, to the operations staff, and then just everybody's put so much into it. So I mean, I might have started the process and might have kind of built the skeleton, but it was a team who's really put kind of flesh and skin and hair on those bones, and so yeah, it's been really amazing to see it all come together, and it's been incredibly challenging, but it's been really magical as well. It's been really like a dream, but my dreams are like big challenges, so I kind of take on these things that are like, okay, you've got to do an impossible task in an impossibly small amount of time. And you're going to have to work magic to do it. So, like that to me is a dream, and it's been crazy stressful at times. And there've been a few times where I thought that, we might be a week away from having to close the doors, but then somehow managed to bring it together or find more money or, get ourselves out of some kind of life or death situation. But it's been, it's been awesome. And we just celebrated our 1 year anniversary. So we opened our doors on June 20th, 2017. And so we just had our 1 year anniversary on June 20th of this year. And we seem to be in a spot that's going pretty strong. We've had hundreds of people come through in the year, posted 35 groups in the year. We've had, we just a lot of people, and we've had people coming back several times in the course of the year, and just so much support from the people who have come through, from our alumni, spreading the word, getting it out there. And it just seems like now we're in a slightly more stable place, and it's nice, it's good. Couldn't ask for much more. It was like the theme of your book, the 0.1% of happiness. And it's like, I honestly, I don't think, this is why I wonder if life is actually a simulation, because if you gave me if I could paint and you gave me a paintbrush and a canvas and you told me paint your ideal life, I would paint this exactly the way it is. My Soltara, where I live, my relationships, everything is is amazing. And like you say, you don't get there by not working. You get there by working really hard every day, and so, yeah.
There's very few people who can say that for their lives, man. Most of the people that I speak to, and that's actually a big reason why I wrote the book, big reason why I do the podcast. Even many of my friends, when you ask them, how's life? How are you doing? Usually it's like, same shit, man, nothing interesting. Why would you spend your days living like that? I mean, it's a waste of life. And that's the most precious thing we have. We have a very limited time while we're here. Why would you not do what you want to do? And sometimes there's a lot of risk.
Choose your friends wisely, man.
Yeah. But right? And just there are very, very few people that are living the way they actually want to be living, like you are. And that's really amazing. I wonder what made you leave Canada and stay, and don't you sometimes have this urgent feeling to go back to the what people call the modern world?
Well, I can talk to two things on that. Like, Costa Rica is pretty modern. Like, living in Costa Rica, I've got all of the amenities that I need. I have a very, very comfortable lifestyle here. So I feel it's a great bridge between, the ruggedness of South America and the modernity of North America. It's physically and metaphorically right in the middle. Secondly, I left Canada just because of that exact thing that you were just saying, kind of this, being surrounded by, uninspiring people who were just working regular, unambitious jobs that anybody could get. And I just didn't see, when I looked at society, I said, there's and asked myself, what job do I want to do? Or if someone asked me, what am I going to do? What job am I going to do? I just always thought, and I always said, it doesn't exist yet. Because I looked at everything and I just didn't want it. I just didn't want I went through college, started working, started making a bit of money, bought a car, got car payments, tried to just kind of progress naturally into what guys progress into in Canada. And I was bored. I was just super bored, and I wanted something cool, man. I wanted something adventurous. I wanted something different. It was just so I just dropped everything, left my car basically parked on the side of the road. The bank repossessed it after a couple of months, and went backpacking and spent the next several years traveling around. I got a job with a tour company, so I started leading tours actually started in Costa Rica and Panama, then went down to South America, Brazil, Venezuela, Argentina, Uruguay, Colombia, Ecuador, and then started moving into Peru, with the ayahuasca. So, it was I wanted adventure. And I just went to find adventure. I didn't have any cash. I was broke, man. I was always just always broke. And living really ruggedly, living really basically. But it was I was going through a rite of passage, I guess you can say, and getting all this experience and having to navigate unique challenges, right? Just being in a different country, not knowing the language, but then you've got a group of 15 people that you've got to get through some type of situation, or, from point A to point B, and you need them to have a good time or whatever. So learned a lot about solving problems on the fly and being organized and being self-sufficient and resourceful and being with people. And the language was a big thing, So I essentially just followed my interests. I followed what called me, and I didn't really have a lot of regard for, what am I going to do in the future? What am I going to do when I grow up? It was if I would have been thinking about all that, everything I did for 5 years was totally irresponsible. because I didn't, I was not getting ahead financially. I was putting myself into debt. I was not working any real serious jobs. I didn't have long-term jobs. I was just kind of a bit of a vagabond, traveling around, living in different places. And so, like, if you're looking at that from a traditional kind of Western lens, I would have looked like a loser, or like an irresponsible kind of flaky guy. And that's not it's also, I mean, as I discovered after several years of doing that, it's when you get to be about 30, that's not really so attractive when it comes to, like, finding a partner. Like, your partner, when you get to be about that age, you want to be a little more stable. But I was doing that in my 20s. And throughout that process, I got all this unique experience. And so then when I did become interested in entrepreneurship, when I was around turning 30, it was like I had all this experience to draw from, and it was unique experience. Like, not a lot of people have got that kind of experience, because they don't have what it takes to put in the time to go and be a, poor backpacker for 5 years, learning different languages and, like, moving around, being completely uprooted, stuff like that. So I was able to platform off of that and start slowly by running my own tours and utilizing that experience just as a kind of one-man show, and then eventually slowly growing to 2 people, and then to 4 people, and then, running more tours, and then building a retreat center. And then that first one was in Peru, and it was much less expensive and much more rugged. So it only required a small amount of investment to build that first one, which I managed to get from my dad, who had a little bit of faith in me that I was going to make something of it. And after a few years, that became successful. And I actually ended up selling it to one of our clients. And then when it came time to come to Costa Rica to a much more expensive operation. I mean, you've seen Soltara. It was quite an expensive investment, right? So I had to raise quite a bit of money, but because of that past experience, and the track record and everything, I was able to get enough money from like 15 different investors to build it. A lot of people who invested in Soltara were either family who knew me and knew my history, or past clients from Peru, from our center in Peru, that had seen what we did down there and had confidence, so.
It's amazing to see this transformation from this 20 whatever young person that you were, and to where you are right now. And it seems that you had no idea where this path was going to lead you, but all it took was this feeling of boredom and just knowing that there is something out there waiting for you. And I had the same feeling when I was, what was it, like 4 years ago, when I decided to sell my business in Bulgaria and move to the United States. Exact same thing. And there is this pain inside, and there is also the fear knowing that if you go, you might fail. And I guess almost everyone has this. My wife, she's done the same move from Bulgaria here with no money at all. I was at least fortunate to have a successful business before that. That is actually still able to sustain me here in the States without making money. So what would you say, was there fear for you? And what would you say for all the people who are listening right now? They feel the pain. They work in this crappy job that they hate. They hate on the Mondays, wait for the Friday so they can waste some more time. how can they change? What do you think? I mean, your jump was huge and you've been really brave to do what you did. I think I would have never done what you did. I didn't go from Bulgaria to Africa. I went to the United States knowing that there's a lot of business opportunities and you can make money from almost anything here. But what you did was quite a bit different. And for me, the huge thing is not knowing where this is going to lead you, just doing what you feel you need to be doing right now. How did you manage to make such a big jump, and was there fear, and what would you, if someone asks you right now, they're 25 and they feel like shit, what would you advise them to do?
Well, there's a couple things that come to mind there. One is a quote one of my friends, Mike, used to tell me, is that people change when the pain of staying the same exceeds the pain of making the change. So, if you're stuck in a shitty job and you are utterly just unsatisfied with life and bored, how is it any better to spend 20, 30 or 50 years like that than taking some risk and putting yourself out there and actually going to live a little? You can always recover. Another exercise is Tim Ferriss,
fear setting, I think.
Well, yeah, it was like you jot down the worst case scenario that could happen if things go wrong, but and it's oftentimes not as unmanageable as you think it is, right? But also just the mindset I was in at the time was that I had a very short-term view on life. I was actually I historically have been pretty pessimistic about the future of the planet, right? About the future of society, about the future of the world. And actually, I used to read a lot, like back in 2007, 2008. I used to read a lot about the Mayan prophecy, 2012. That the world, something big was going to happen, or there's going to be like the end of the world or whatever. So I didn't know it was going to happen. I was pretty pessimistic, and I just thought, I'm not going to plan for fucking 30 years in the future if the world's going to shit, and I'm just going to do what I want. And then on top of that, I think there's something to be said about the entrepreneurial mindset and just being comfortable with risk and being confident that you can pull yourself out of situations. And maybe a little, I don't know if arrogance is the right word, but I think it's more confidence than arrogance. Like just knowing that I always had that self-confidence that like I'm way too opportunistic to go through life without being successful, without finding something. Like I'll find some way, somehow I'll do something. I'll see something and I'll act on it. So, I understood that I was taking risk, but for me, the option of not taking risk was more painful than actually taking risk and then having to dig myself out of whatever I got myself into. So, I'm conceptualizing a new book that will kind of present my hypothesis on what makes, what the traits of like an entrepreneurial mindset are, I guess. It's something along that line. Like I won't go into too much detail, but yeah, I think, you've got to be comfortable with handling and carrying risk. Like that is a massive part of doing anything big, anything that costs a lot of money. Anything where you have to get investment that takes other people's money and puts it at risk, or anything you really have to commit to, or that's going to take a long time before you start getting any benefits from it, you know. So I think that's something you can practice. I think you can practice managing risk by starting small with small risk and taking chances with small things, and then slowly building up. I mean, I think there's a lot to be said for building off of past experiences and just going, like, starting small and just, but when you make a next step, like, then you platform that, and that becomes where you were. And then where you're going is bigger than that, you know, always platforming off your past and your experiences, and continuously trying to climb higher, trying to take on bigger things, bigger challenges, bigger responsibilities, bigger projects, bigger risks. But yeah, I mean, as another thing that came to mind there is, like, you're 25, now's the time to do it. I remember when I was that age, and everybody, you know, all these, like, older travelers who I was taking on these tours were like, yeah, do it now while you're young, do it now while you're young. And those are very true words, because now I'm 37 now, and, like, I have zero desire to go backpacking now. Like, I'm like, I want, like, a comfortable hotel room with a king size bed and, like, you know, nice restaurants. And I'm so done with carrying around an 80-pound backpack and staying in hostels and all that. I'm super glad I did it when I was in my 20s, you know, super glad I did it. If I didn't do it when I was in my 20s, I wouldn't be where I am right now. So, like, don't waste your 20s. 20s are the time to go and, like, fuck around in the world and take risks and meet people from other countries and, like, take chances, you know, and, like, get to know yourself, get to know the world, get to know some other languages, be broke. You know, you can get away with being broke when you're in your 20s, or, like, you can get away with not having a career, not having, like, a, you know, a set path. Like, you don't need to raise a family when you're in your 20s. So it's like, yeah, I would just say, if you can go for it, you know, and figure a way through it, and it'll just make you stronger and better and give you more experience.
That's been exactly my experience, and I've done so much crazy stuff when I look back in my 20s. I'm 31 now, so quite close to the 20s, but just 8 months ago, my wife and I, we got a pair of twins. So life has changed quite drastically since then. And actually, there's an example. Just yesterday, I received an invitation from one of the biggest entrepreneurship events in India. They asked me to go and be a guest speaker along one of the presidents of Air India and one of the minister of coal of the government of India. And I had to say no, because it would take me 4 days to travel there and back. And I don't want to miss this time spending it with my kids instead of being there. If it was 5 years ago, if it was 2 years ago, I would go for sure. Like, I would just jump on a plane right now and go. But before you have a family, you just need to say yes to so many more things than, if I could go back, I would do even more. I did a lot, I would do even more. So that's definitely the best thing I can say as well. And fear setting, what you mentioned, Tim Ferriss, he actually shares this in a TED talk. I will put it in the show notes below. This was such an amazing tool that I've used in the past. I've actually changed it a bit, and I put it in my book, put a little bit more to it. It's for huge fears like this, for huge life changes like this, like quitting your job, going to live in a different country, making such drastic changes that are associated also with a lot of potential damage and risk, I think that is the best tool out there that really opens your mind to what's the worst that could happen. And if this is the worst that could happen, how can I actually avoid it by taking certain steps right now? And I've been trying to teach a few of my friends and people that I know about this, because they've been doing exactly that, working in shitty jobs, even having really successful businesses that they don't actually love working on, which was my case. You still need to change. I mean, otherwise you're wasting your life. I know that Soltara is associated with a lot of work from scientists and doctors, as you mentioned. What is the latest research of ayahuasca and how it affects the human body and our brains?
To be honest, I haven't been looking too much at research as of late, sorry. I mean, I've seen a ton over the years. I don't know what the latest cutting edge research is. So yeah, maybe I wouldn't want to comment on that unless I can be
makes sense,
really
yeah.
well educated on it. So
yeah, makes sense. Do you know, going back to what is already there, from what I've read in the past months, I think I read somewhere that there is actually a physical change that an ayahuasca experience creates on the structure of your brain, that it kind of enlarges these parts of your brain that are connected to creativity and just being more open spiritually.
Yeah. There's definitely some changes in brain activity patterns, and I think what the research that I'm recalling did an MRI scan on brains under the influence of ayahuasca and perhaps other psychedelics like mushrooms or LSD, and there's definitely brain activity patterns that change, and certain parts of the brain are more activated. And some parts of the brain are actually more deactivated. So some parts of the brain that are associated with things called the default network, something like that, default mode, default network that associated with like social anxiety and stress and stuff like that is actually reduced. Activity is reduced in that area. And then there's also been some research that suggests both ayahuasca and psilocybin mushrooms can actually increase neuroplasticity and repair brain synapses, like brain connections. So there's some of that stuff out there for sure. It's funny, we don't often talk about the science a lot at Soltara. It's not like, it's really about the healing on the emotional level and the spiritual level and the energetic level. We really focus on that. And I don't hear our facilitators talking much about the science, which is kind of interesting that to actually say that. But yeah, they really don't. I feel like they couldn't care less about the latest article. It's like their whole experience is just all about how things work on an emotional and energetic and spiritual level, if you know what I mean. They talk a lot about that. That's all they talk about. So it's interesting. But then you've got let's say the skeptic community that loves those scientific articles, just loves it, right? Because that's what makes sense to them, is there's some proof, So I get that, I get that.
Yeah, and in the end, science is human-made, and we cannot really put ayahuasca or any of these experiences with psychedelics in a box and say this is what it is, because science really doesn't make connection between brain and spirit. And I don't know if there is any way that this would ever happen in our lifetimes either way. So probably we will never be able to explain what exactly is happening during those experiences. So yeah, some people can be skeptic. I believe that the most skeptical people are those who have never tried it, which makes a lot of sense. I was very skeptical before I experienced it. I was actually skeptical while I was experiencing during the first ceremony, before I got actually deep into it and saw that there was actually quite a lot of logic and meaning. For me, it's all about, does this help me with the life that I'm experiencing on a daily basis? And if the answer is yes, then this is something that I'm willing to talk about. This is something that I'm willing to share with people who I care for. And I wouldn't say recommend, because it's a very personal thing and it's a quite a intense experience. But definitely, if it has brought positive impact to my life, I am willing to share with people, and that's a big reason why we're having this conversation. And I'm actually really fascinated about the topic of ayahuasca and other psychedelics, and how all of this study or experiences will be integrated in our future lives in the Western society, because I think this is coming as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you're seeing decriminalization happen.
Yeah.
I mean, it's happening fast, maybe even faster than some people expected.
Well, I wouldn't see why alcohol is so widely spread and accepted, and ayahuasca wouldn't be. If you do it in the right setting, obviously, as we do it in Soltara, because for the one thing, which is alcohol, you know of exactly how damaging this thing is to your body, to your brain. You see thousands and hundreds of thousands of people on the street who have basically messed up their lives because of alcohol. And then you wait for one story about ayahuasca where something happened in the jungle and you don't even know whether it was the plant or the person was sick or something else happened. And then they make a huge story out of it. So it really doesn't make sense. It's not logical. It's the same thing with shark attacks. Like, one person got eaten by a shark 2 weeks ago, and it's all over the news. Like,
right.
It's just crazy.
But 10,000 people died from, like, alcohol or smoking this year, whatever, so.
Quite a bit more, maybe. I think it's hundreds of thousands.
Yeah. I was just, I was thinking maybe 10,000 this week or something, but I don't know the stats on that. But yeah, you're exactly right. And I think it's really fair to say that psychedelics were criminalized due to culture, not science, right? It was part of a movement that took place back in the 70s, right after this kind of mishap with psychedelic culture in the 60s and 70s, and we're just kind of recovering from that now, using science as our ally, because now we've got science to back up claims. And I think it's being handled culturally a lot more digestibly.
Yeah.
You don't have the same kind of, you don't have LSD representing a certain culture, like how it was when, there was the fork in the road back in those days. Now you've got respectable people from all walks of life that are respectfully using these medicines. Some people are using it for fun, yeah. Some people are using it for experience, yeah. But the general discourse that gets put out into society and into the media as of late has been generally around healing and therapy, treating depression, treating anxiety, treating PTSD, you know, end of life anxiety, terminal illness, things like that. So I think it's becoming more and more difficult to demonize and maintain the criminal scheduling, criminal classification of these substances. And I mean, it went pretty quick from legalizing marijuana to now at least decriminalizing, starting to decriminalize plant-based psychedelics in, in California and in Colorado. And well, that's where the marijuana legalization took root first, right? So I expect that maybe in about half of the states that legalized or decriminalized marijuana, we'll probably end up moving toward this direction. But
I mean, people are doing it either way illegally, not in the right setting because they have to hide it. So it would only make sense that this thing is legal and controlled in a way by the state to really make sure that people are doing it in the right way, to really make sure that people are taking not something that they don't know what it is, but something which is actually the thing that they want to take. And especially for people who actually need it, people who are ill, people who are trying to stop drinking alcohol, and people with addictions. I mean, it has benefits that have already been proven. So I believe in the long term it would also come, just as you mentioned, with marijuana and other things. I have been thinking after my experience at Soltara. I wouldn't go into the details of the experience because I know that it always sounds super weird and it's very personal. But for me, all of the ceremonies were like a very long and detailed movie with a lot of visual, kinesthetic, auditory mixed into the whole experience. And especially when the shamans were singing their Icaros to me, I was experiencing a lot of interesting things. And for me, it looked a lot like the Avatar movie. If I can explain it to a person who's never done ayahuasca, I think this is the closest to it that I can explain it with. I wonder, because the shamans are also drinking the medicine, I wonder, what are they seeing? Because I know what I saw. I know my interaction with them was very interesting, very special, very sacred. And they were, I could see them sending me different amulets and tools so that they can help me deal with the problems that I was trying to deal during the ceremony. I wonder, are they able to see and to kind of enter the movie that I'm in while they are singing their Icaro to me? Have you spoken to them, and what do they actually see while they sing? Do you know?
Well, it's hard for me to comment on what their experience is. I can say generally they're more reading energy and trying to assess the energetic body and work on the energetic body or the spiritual body. Sometimes things come into their vision based on, a number of conversations I've had before and after ceremony with healers in the group setting. But yeah, I mean, I think everybody's experience is very personal. So, your Avatar movie is probably different than the person next to you's Avatar movie. And I doubt that the healers can experience exactly what it is you're experiencing, although you may emit some of that in your energetic or spiritual signature, I guess. That's working on and they're reading in the actual ceremony. And I think that's probably a good way to put it.
I wonder how many approximately ceremonies have you done, and do you get a different lesson every time? And what is the reason that you would do? Some people do 100, 200 ceremonies in their lifetime, even more. What is one reason that you would do so many, and do you get different lessons every time, and doesn't really make sense?
Sure, good question. Well, the reason people do so many is usually because they're developing a practice, right? They're continuing to go deep with the medicine, continuing to get deeper into themselves and continue to purify and clean their own energetic and spiritual bodies. That's what like the people who work for Soltara are doing. Well, they're drinking. They're constantly trying to work on themselves and clean out energies and be like the brightest, clearest, cleanest version of themselves that's possible. In my particular case, I've probably had somewhere, around 150 or 200 ceremonies in my life. I don't always get a new lesson. I actually feel like the majority of the benefit that I've gotten from ayahuasca was probably in the beginning when I was transforming my life and really getting clear on what my path was. I think that's really the main benefit that ayahuasca has given me is kind of changing my own self-perception from a point of self-contempt and self-disgust to self-acceptance and love and feeling deserving of the life I want. And then me getting clear on some decisions on the path I should be walking, whether I was on the right path or whether I need to change path. That includes with relationships and how I interact with some important people in over the years. So I feel like, that's what ayahuasca has done for me. It's really helped me to find my path and walk it. Nowadays, I don't do a ton of ceremonies. I maybe drink every couple of weeks, every few weeks, once, just to stay connected to what's going on inside the Maloka, just to stay connected to the team and, make sure I see them and what they're doing and give respect to the healers who are working with us. But honestly, for me at this point, it's kind of, I'm not really getting a lot more from it than, I'm not having these big transformational ceremonies anymore. I've kind of, if I have a ceremony, I kind of meditate on problems that are going on in my life right now, but and sometimes I get insights into how I can solve them. But I don't know. I feel pretty self-aware and pretty connected now, and just really clear about who I am and what I do and what I'm good at, and just want to keep diving into that. I just feel like I was born to be an entrepreneur, and it's exciting for me. I'm passionate about it, and I just want to keep doing that, and I've understood that, relationships are really important. And so I put a lot of value. Basically, I only have two priorities in my life right now, and that is Soltara, or my entrepreneurial interests, and my relationship with my girlfriend and her family, and just cultivating those things that make me happy in life. And I've kind of, all the other stuff has kind of fallen off the radar. I still like to get involved with a thing or two here and there for some variety, but Yeah, I'm pretty clear on that. And I think ayahuasca's definitely helped me to identify that and help me to stay on point with that. And also, that's one of the big reasons why I see the value in this work, because I see so many people, young people looking for that clarity on life and on their path. And I just feel like there's so much potential in helping people find that, and just helping them find their own course of action that's like takes them from that like kind of dissatisfied, unfulfilled, not really making much of an impact kind of role in the world, and finding that thing that excites them, that gives them passion, and that is helping steer the ship of human society in a better direction. That I feel like that's what I'm passionate about this work, because I've seen it so many times, that people will come and do a retreat with us, and then go and write a book, or go and start traveling the world and just volunteering in Nepal, or just doing crazy things that otherwise they may not have done, which brings them so much more happiness. And I just feel like there's so many people in the world who are wasting their potential, and doing this work can help them unlock it, I think.
Yeah, I believe so too. And after all, the ultimate goal for all of us for our lives is to be happy, right? I mean, whatever you do, whether it's a business, whether it's the relationship you're in, whether it's traveling the world, you are seeking happiness. You're kind of pursuing it. And what ayahuasca taught me is that I should not really pursue it, because it's always within me, and it's a lot about self-love rather than anything else. That was probably the main lesson that I learned. And I didn't have a lot of self-love before that for some crazy reason. But the other big part is doing what you feel is right at that moment. And if you're not, then you're disconnected with your values, you're disconnected with the path that will bring you the most happiness. And I believe that ayahuasca opens your eyes to it, and really encourages you to take on this path. For me, I was doing a lot of meditation for years before that. That has helped me in uncovering a lot of that. And actually, I have taken on this path before doing ayahuasca, but I had these internal struggles of, is this the right thing? Am I doing the right thing? And should I go back to doing what I was doing? Just a lot of feeling of not being sure whether this thing that I'm doing is the right thing. And when I had my experience with during the ceremonies, I really got a clear picture that if I have taken these decisions that have led me to where I am, and I've done the work, I've been meditating on it, I've been really putting the meaningful questions out to get the answers that I need to get, then this is the right thing, and I should keep on going, and I should aim even higher. I should put even more force into all the work that I'm doing. So it's all about happiness in the end. People follow money, people follow girls, people follow cars and houses and bullshit like that, but it's all about your internal experience and how you view your life and every single day of your life, because in the end it's about every day. You might not be here tomorrow. If you're not enjoying today, then you're wasting your life.
That's the truth, man. That's the truth. And how many of us know somebody who unexpectedly passed away?
Everyone.
Way too soon. So
everyone.
You never know. It could happen in a car accident, could happen in fucking whatever, plane crash, tree falls on your head, you get sick, whatever. So you got your health, you got your time, you got a day ahead of you. you've got beautiful things in life. So like be happy and enjoy it and try to do what makes you feel like life is worth living, and, and then if you keep, I used to always like notice, it was like, I used to work a bunch of sales jobs and I just hated it, but it was the only thing I could do. And, I was depressed because I just thought like, I hate this, but I keep doing it. And it's like, you just keep getting better at the things you keep doing. So why am I doing something that I hate? Because I'm just getting better at doing it and I'm not getting better at doing something else. So it's like, you just got to follow those things that excite you and that give you passion, and you'll just get better at doing those things. And, then you find a way to make money doing it and make a living. And that's the real goal, right?
And sometimes this means taking some risk. I have a good personal example with that. Sold my business for a certain amount of money, moved to the States to find out what I want to be doing with my life. Wrote this book, which was the first thing that I felt is the best thing I can spend my time on. Spend a year doing that. Started this podcast, which was the next thing I was feeling deep inside I need to be doing. Feel amazing about it. And now I am thinking of the next project, and I am starting this company called Boring Projects. And my main goal with everything I do from now on is to not be able to fall asleep at night, basically. To work on projects that would make me so excited, that are so meaningful to me, that I would really not be able to fall asleep. That I won't be able to wait for the morning to come. So the clock rings at 6 o'clock and I just jump and start working. And right now, while I'm doing this podcast, I'm not monetizing it still. The book is making a little money. I have tremendous amount of monthly expenses, and we have a runway, my wife and my kids, we have a runway of about maybe 7-8 months more before the money is finished. And I could pick up any business, which is a regular business that I know very well how to handle, and I can start making money tomorrow, but I just don't want to. And I'm creating this project that I told you about, which would be about solving huge problems out in the world that I'm very passionate about, one by one, step by step. And when I spoke with my brother, who is a great businessman, a super smart person, I really respect him, and I told him about my first idea, he's like, sounds amazing. It could be made by someone, but not by you and me. And I'm like, why? And he's like, because we don't have the experience. And I'm like, yes, but the only experience that I currently have is something that I don't want to be doing anymore. So if I put my experience from the past 30 years of my life to build my next business, and I only lay on my experience, then I have to be doing something that I don't want to be doing anymore. So what I did instead is I bought a ton of books, a ton of textbooks actually from major universities, and I started learning about civil engineering. I've done business management, and all I've done before is management, nothing else. Sales management, that's it. And now I want to learn about this thing, so I'm actually able to create something which I'm passionate about. And it will take me a lot of time. There's a huge risk in me trying to do that without any knowledge in the field, but that's my decision. And if it fails, and if we have to sell the house, move somewhere else, sell the car, I don't care. I really don't. And I'm super happy every single day because of this decision. It is a little scary still, even after all these experiences, even me feeling very confident that I'm good in business. And even if things go really bad, I can find a way to make enough money to sustain ourselves. It's still scary. But that's what makes me happy. And if that's the way it should be for me to feel happy, then that's the way it should be. And I want to give this example to my kids as well once they're grown up. if you want to be doing something, do that. I mean, I don't care that my past experiences don't fit with that. You can learn. And nowadays you can learn anything.
Yeah. Oh, that's just going to get better too as we get better technology and are able to start like supercharging our own brains. But you really made a good point. Like if you're going into something new, whatever, without the experience, but you have tons of passion for it, and you see meaning and value, like meaning is very important too. So like businesses are hard, and starting projects, it's really hard, and you go through really tough times. And when you get to those tough times, the only way you're going to survive that is if you like have a bigger purpose. If you've got meaning, if it's something that you see a lot of importance in, that's more important than your pain and suffering, that's worth your pain and suffering. If it's just kind of like, meh, like
make a little more money. Yeah.
Running a laundromat or whatever, you know what I mean? It's like, you just don't have the same grit to push through and to put it all on the line. Like if you're going to do something, it's like, you got to go all in, like, I mean, there's lots of things you can do without going all in, but want to do something big and challenging. If you want to succeed in it, you better be ready to go all in, like put it all on the table, your heart, your soul, your life, your money. And then, that's what gives you the grit to be able to fight through those like dark days and get to the bright days,
Yeah. And very well, I mean, if you didn't feel this way about Soltara, you would have given it up when it was really tough. And when you were that close from going down, you would have probably given it up.
There were like probably 3 or 4 times where I was at the breaking point of like just pressure and stress and like, all this, like these expectations on me, but it wasn't like succeeding. And multiple things have happened, like, bank accounts have closed, or like, we have had local authorities, like the building permit thing come in and like, close the doors or whatever. And like just various different things, that where it was like, we could die right now, but there's just something inside of me that was just like utterly refusing to die. Like just no fucking way. I'm finding a way through this. We're going to get through this. This place needs to exist. We need to do this work. And, we've managed to pull off miracles a couple of times, So yeah, that's exactly how it is, man.
That's how you get other people on board to actually support you. If you care that much, and if people feel it, they will come and help.
Exactly.
If you don't care about your project, why the fuck should anybody else care?
Exactly.
And that's how big names like Elon Musk, for example, is able to pull off things like SpaceX. I mean, SpaceX, sending people on Mars, like getting people on board on something that most people believe would never happen. Now it seems that it would happen quite soon. Why are people doing it? Because it's an exciting vision. He's super excited about it. He's obviously have the track record to prove that he can create amazing things, but otherwise you won't be able to get the best talent if you don't have an inspiring mission. And when times get tough, you won't be able to get the support from investors, from family, and even deep inside, you won't be giving the emotional support that you need to yourself, because that's a huge one. It's amazing that you have a co-founder. She's an amazing person. I met her at Soltara. I'm sure that you are able to support each other at tough times. And I had this with my brother when we had these issues in our business, starting from ground zero, building it to what became the biggest company in the field in Bulgaria in just 5 years. We had times couple of times when we couldn't pay the salaries to the employees. We did eventually, because that's obviously the most important thing to keep our people happy. But we were on the verge of giving up huge projects because one of us thought that maybe it's not possible, maybe we couldn't do it. But then you have this partner who is there for you and who's like, come on, man, let's try. So it's amazing if you have a person who is quite a bit like you, with the same passion, with the same excitement about the project, to really be able to help you when you are down, and vice versa, to just push each other. So it's amazing that you guys are teaming up on that mission.
Melissa's great, and I mean, we're coworkers and we're friends, and we support each other both in work and business and life, and also another important point that you mentioned was that getting other people on board with your vision, with your project, right? That's like, nobody does anything as an island, right? That quote, like, no man is an island. Nobody does anything alone. If you want to do anything, you need to get support from many people, probably people that like you don't even expect, whether that's, investors or staff or coworkers or authorities or, people who want to do favors for you because they believe in your vision or they see how passionate you are. People who want to invite you on their podcast, or people who, want to give you a shout out on social media, or just like, there's just so many different unexpected ways that support from the community, from the local or the global community or the online community or the business community, whoever, that comes into play so frequently. When the banker wants to give you a break, when like, there's just all that stuff happens because your passion shines through and because you're just so committed to the outcome that people don't want to stand in your way. Another quote from David Goggins, I like that one. He says, "Nothing wants to stand in the way of anything that's relentless." Or nobody wants to stand in the way of anything that's relentless, right? So it's like, if you can't be relentless, if you can't be fully committed, then your chances of success just go down, but if you are fully committed, if you are full of passion and are willing to put it all on the table until and just there is no stop. It's just go until you reach the outcome that you want, so yeah, that's how you have a good chance of succeeding, right? And that's how you're working on the right project,
Oh yeah. Nice, man. Like what you shared. How do you think we can connect with our higher self, or whatever people like to call it, without taking plant medicine? What has been your experience with that?
Nature, exercise, meditation. Spend time in nature, go for hikes in the mountains,
Do you have experience with shamanic breathing or any techniques like that?
No, not really.
No? I've been trying to kind of get as close as possible after my ayahuasca experience to this kind of experience. And funny enough, I had an episode of this show with a woman called Mira Kelly. She's a past life regressionist. And I didn't think much about the practice before I actually did it. I was quite skeptical, like I usually am. And we did it here in the studio. I was sitting on this very chair, and she was on the other side. She was live in the studio. And I went so deep into this experience. It was not a hypnosis where you're completely out of your body and your mind, but I did manage to go very deep. And it was most likely the closest thing I experienced to ayahuasca. I was able to see actually a future life on a different planet, and there was so much detail. And then she connected me to what seemed like my higher self in a different dimension, and I was able to ask questions and get back insight. It was very, very interesting, and it was kind of similar to my experience with ayahuasca. Obviously not so deep, not so insightful, not so visual, and all of that. It was like an hour long experience. And other things that I've tried is shamanic breathing. I've been doing this thing from Wim Hof. I don't know if you've heard the guy. He's quite... And that has been bringing me a little bit closer to being able to just tap into some higher self or whatever there is, which knows a little bit more and can really guide me in times where I'm just very unfocused and feeling that I'm going in the wrong direction during my days.
Yeah, I think there are many pathways to the same location, it's just plant medicine is a very effective one, but yeah, there are other ways you can get there for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I haven't experienced anything that comes anywhere close to what ayahuasca was, and I guess that's why people call it, you get, 10 years of psychotherapy in one night.
That's the famous quote, yeah.
Ayahuasca is a lot about giving up shame and just really freeing yourself from things that have been holding you back. I wonder, after so much work with the plant medicine, do you have still something that you feel ashamed of sharing with people?
Well, I actually right in my very first ceremony, I've completely forgave myself for all the things I was ashamed of and all the things that I was embarrassed about and all my regrets. I realized that at that moment in time, I was in the perfect place in the space-time continuum. Like I was exactly where I needed to be. And I wouldn't have been there unless all of those other things had happened to me in my life and all those other decisions I'd made or all those mistakes that I made had happened. And for me to alter my path at all those different inflection points in my journey. And so that kind of changed my perspective on regret and shame. And I think now, I just try to do things that I won't be ashamed of, but I also I guess my mindset now is kind of just don't have regret and just, if you did something stupid, well, there's a lesson there, and don't do it again, but don't beat yourself up about it. And, so I'm still a fairly private person, but there's not a lot of shame or regret that I have. Sometimes I still feel embarrassed about saying something dumb or doing something dumb, or, I still sometimes drink a little bit and sometimes say something stupid, but
happens to the best of us.
Other than that, I think I'm pretty clear on my morals and my values and my ethics, and try to live in a way that makes me feel good about, how I treat people, how I handle people, how I contribute in the world, the kind of example I set for other people. And so, I'm pretty comfortable.
What is your mission for the next couple of years? What are you trying to achieve?
Well, I want to just keep growing as an entrepreneur. I want to just, bring Soltara to its complete fruition. And we've got some sustainability initiatives on site. So I want to switch out all our vehicles for electric vehicles. So I'm really excited about the new Tesla pickup truck that's coming out, because in Costa Rica you need 4x4, like a real rugged vehicle, especially where we are. So within the next couple of years, I'd like to have all electric vehicles. I'd like to have our facility completely running on solar power. We're in a great place for solar. So I'd like to be fully disconnected from the grid, and from the drinking water to the electricity, and the ability to charge our own vehicles on site with solar power, and then be able to get ourselves around Costa Rica with those. So I really want to bring Soltara to its complete fruition. In order to do those things, I'll need to do that. I also we're interested in reforesting our own property with a lot of the natural hardwoods that have been cut down over the years for lumber, and replenishing the local valley, the local environment as best we can. Looking at some desalination technologies which will allow us to irrigate. So in the dry season, we can irrigate and really turn the property into like an oasis.
That would be amazing, yeah.
And then, on top of that, as Soltara becomes whole and achieves its full potential, I'm definitely interested in taking on bigger projects. Now that, as I mentioned, I think you should always platform off of your past experience. So, it was a major leap to go from Peru to Costa Rica. And then once we bring Soltara to fruition, I'll have access to a lot of confidence and a lot of money for, the next project, whatever that may be. And so I'll be able to do something with even more impact, whatever that may be. And I'm just really passionate about growing into that, that role as a change maker, applying entrepreneurial tactics to making change in the world and improving people's lives and also improving my own life, just really feeling like I'm living up to my potential and I want to support a family here and have some fun while I'm doing it and live comfortably. So yeah, that's really kind of where my head's at.
Right. Are you planning to stay in Costa Rica for the next years?
Yeah. I love Costa Rica. It seems like home for me. It's, just the simple factor of driving around and just constantly being surrounded by trees, which just makes me so happy. And just being in the mountains, the fresh air, the weather, we're on the water, like there's just being in such a naturally endowed environment is so great for me. But at the same time, it's developed enough that I've got anything I could ever want here, in terms of like I live in the city, I live in the jungle, and it's only 3 hours away from each other, I've been around, I've been around Europe, Asia, Australia, Canada, US, South America, Central America. And this is the place that suits my personality best. And it's, I'm fortunate enough to have been able to know all these different places, to know that about myself and about what I want. So yeah, I'm actually just should be getting my residency within the next couple of weeks in Costa Rica. And I plan to just continue living here because I just honestly don't see any other place that I like as much as I like here.
Nice. Yeah. I wish that for everyone to really be able to see different places and just open them up and say, I want to live here because of this, and that. That's what I did. And that's why I'm here in LA for now. I haven't seen that many places yet. Actually, I have seen a lot of places in Europe and Asia, not in the Americas. So I will be traveling around even more to search for the best place. Right now, this is the best place, and that's why I'm here. If I find anything which suits the lifestyle that I and my family want to lead, we'll definitely move. No question about it. Before I ask you the last question, where can people learn more about you and Soltara?
I do have a website, danielcleland.com. It's a little bit stale, but I'm planning to give it a refresh, and then soltara.co. Anything you want to know about Soltara is on there. Soltara's also really got a really great YouTube channel, Soltara, and really great social media presence at Soltara Healing Center on Instagram and on Facebook. Think about the same. You search it, you'll find it. And then, a couple of documentaries that I put out, which people seem to like, are The Plant Teacher at theplantteacher.com and Drinking the Jungle at drinkingthejungle.com. And then my book too is at pulseofthejungle.com. And that's, kind of a story of my life up until the retreat center in Peru. So I'm currently writing version 2. I'm currently writing the next iteration with all of our experiences in Soltara, which is kind of, I think, as I was saying earlier, it's going to tie into a little bit more weighted in entrepreneurship, and kind of like how my hypotheses and some of the lessons about the entrepreneurial mindset have been illustrated or affected in my own journey with Soltara and all the different experiences that we've had here. So currently thinking about that one.
Nice. Looking forward to reading that too.
Cool.
If you could leave nothing to your future children, but just one sentence of advice, what would that be and why?
Live for today, but plan for tomorrow.
Thanks for stopping by, my friend. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe. Also, make sure to check out some of our other episodes. They are all available on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, and all other major podcast platforms. Until I see you again, stay awesome, my friend.